What's up, Falcons Nation? It's your boy Jew coming at you with another Atlanta Falcons video. As always, Falcons Nation, rise up. In today's video, I want to talk about Robert Quinn, the veteran defensive end, who is an unrestricted free agent. Should the Falcons sign Robert Quinn? As always, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, like the channel, hit that notification bell so you know when I've done content. But let's jump right into this video. So should the Falcons sign Robert Quinn? I believe the Falcons should really consider signing Robert Quinn. I love Robert Quinn's abilities. I did go and view his tape. He's a very polished pass rusher. To me, he's the best pass rusher I have seen so far. That's a free agent, an unrestricted free agent, and I don't believe he's going to command that much money on the market. Last year, he played under a one-year deal with the Dallas Cowboys for $8 million. And I do think that the Falcons have enough money to sign him, even if we bring back Austin Hooper. If we don't bring back Austin Hooper, we definitely should have enough money to give him at least a 3-year deal. Personally, I would give him a 2 or 3 year deal. Robert Quinn has been in the leagues since 2011, but he's only 29 years old. I thought he was a lot older than 29, but when I went and looked it up, he's only 29 years old, meaning he's still in his prime, and I believe he still has a lot of tread on his tires. Last year for Dallas, he did have 11.5 sacks, and he was wreaking havoc. He was living in the backfield of the opposing offenses. He was giving offensive tackles trouble on both sides, the right and left side. He plays with his hand in the dirt, and he's a very solid pass rusher. I think he's like I said, the most polished pass rusher that's out there that's a free agent. And I'm saying even better than Yannick Ngakoue, even better than Dante Fowler Jr. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, go view Robert Quinn's tape. Go look at Robert Quinn's stats. I went and looked up his stats since 2011, and he's had double-digit sacks, meaning over 10 sacks 4 times since he's been in the NFL. 1 year he had 19 sacks. And that was the highest sacks total he's had in the season, so almost 20 sacks in the season. If you remember, early in his career, he was drafted by the St. Louis Rams, now the LA Rams. He played on the opposite side of Chris Long, the longtime defensive end that won a Super Bowl with the Eagles a few years ago and also won a Super Bowl with the Patriots in back-to-back seasons. But Robert Quinn is definitely somebody I would like the Falcons to bring in. He reminds me of Dwight Freeney, who played with the Indianapolis Colts and also played with our Atlanta Falcons in 2016 and helped the Falcons get to a Super Bowl. I really think that Robert Quinn could play that role of Dwight Freeney, even though Dwight Freeney at the time when we signed him was like on his last leg. Even though he still offered or had some juice left, I think Robert Quinn is an elite pass rusher at this point in his career, and he's still in his prime. So I think he could give us a lot more than what Dwight Freeney gave us. But I think he could also do what Dwight Freeney did as a mentor to some of these young guys that we have on the team, like Takk McKinley. And if we are to bring in the draft with that number 16 pick, K'Lavon Chaisson, the edge rusher I like out of LSU, he puts me in the mind of a Robert Quinn. They both have the same body type. Both are about 6'3", 6'4". Robert Quinn is about 260 pounds. K'Lavon Chaisson is about 250 pounds. So I think K'Lavon Chaisson, once he enters the league, will put on a little bit more muscle. Once he gets with his trainers and stuff like that, and he gets in the facility, they definitely will bulk him up a little bit. But I really think that Robert Quinn could help K'Lavon Chaisson if we do bring K'Lavon Chaisson in. I do think that Robert Quinn would be a great mentor to him, could teach him some techniques because he's a tactician. He's a technician when it comes to hand placements, and he's very good at getting after opposing offensive linemen and getting after opposing quarterbacks. He does a great job of mixing up the speed rush, the bull rush, excellent hand placement. They call him the Cobra for a reason, like a snake, because he does a great job of bending the edge, getting around the corner, and he keeps offensive linemen off balance because they don't know, is he going to come with the speed rush? Is he going to come with the chop? Is he going to spin move me? If he going to bull rush me? And he's a lot stronger than I thought he was. When I went and viewed Robert Quinn's tape, I was very impressed. He's the best. He had the best highlight tape I've seen of any pass rusher that's currently in the league far as free agents out there. And like I said, that includes Yannick Ngakoue, that includes Dante Fowler Jr. Now, I wouldn't be opposed to bringing in Dante Fowler Jr. or Yannick Ngakoue because both of those guys are young. But one thing that makes me a little bit nervous about a Yannick Ngakoue and what makes me nervous about a Dante Fowler Jr. is they've only had one season where they had double-digit sacks. Where if I'm going to spend a boatload of money on these guys, I want a guy that's proven, like a Von Miller, a guy that's proven that they're an elite pass rusher. I can't say that Yannick Ngakoue and Dante Fowler Jr. are elite yet. I can call Robert Quinn elite because I've seen his stats. He's proven it with his stats. He's proven it with his play over the 10 seasons or 9 seasons he's been in the league that he is an elite pass rusher. Personally, after reviewing his tape, he definitely is a top 10 pass rusher in the league. He's not a name you hear a lot because he's not one of the sexy names out there. But if you go watch his tape, I'm telling you, you're going to be very impressed with Robert Quinn. He's definitely one of the best pass rushers in the league. And he, like I said, he does a great job. He's definitely an elite pass rusher in the game. He does an excellent job of mixing up the different pass rushing moves. And if anybody knows with our Atlanta Falcons, last year we really struggled with pass rush. We went 4 or 5 games, a stint where we didn't have a single sack. I can guarantee you, if we get Robert Quinn on this team, we definitely won't go on a streak of not having sacks in multiple games. He definitely will have get pressure on the quarterback, have a ton of quarterback pressures, a ton of quarterback hits. And personally, if I'm the Atlanta Falcons, I'm bringing back Adrian Claiborne. I'm going out and signing Robert Quinn. I'm drafting Kayvon Chaisson out of LSU, or I'm signing or drafting Bradley Anae out of the University of Utah. Bradley Anae is a player I'm gonna do a breakdown tape on as well, and talk about him in a video later on this week. He's definitely also another guy that's really impressed me with his tape, his motor. But I'm definitely bringing in multiple pass rushers this offseason. We got Tack, we got Grady Jarrett, and if we can bring in 2 or 3 more pass rushers, I'm definitely bringing in at least 2 edge guys in this draft. With that 16th pick, I'm bringing in a Kayvon Chaisson, a AJ Espinoza, or a Bradley Anae. And then in that second round, I believe we may be able to get Bradley Anae in the second round. So I would try to get Bradley Anae in the second round with that first pick. I would try to get Kayvon Chaisson. But if we get Robert Quinn and Bradley Anae or Kayvon Chaisson, if we bring in at least 2 edge rushers along with Robert Quinn, I'm telling you, we're going to have a very good defensive line, because I consider Grady Jarrett a pass rusher as well from the inside. If we can get a player that can play next to Grady Jarrett, like a Javon Kinlaw, we're going to really have one of the better defensive lines in the game. But I'm telling you, Robert Quinn is that guy. He's that elite pass rusher that we need on this team. Go view his highlight tape. Tell me what you think in the comments about Robert Quinn. But I definitely think that Robert Quinn is the answer for the Atlanta Falcons in this free agency. And I would go all in on Robert Quinn, even if that means we can't bring back Austin Hooper. I believe that Robert Quinn is the guy that we should take that money, the cap space that we have. I would pour all of that money into Robert Quinn, or some of that money into Robert Quinn. And then I would bring in some young guys in the draft that play with that attitude and play with that high motor. Now, another thing that I think is underrated, I hear a lot of people talking about the Atlanta Falcons drafting corners and drafting safeties. Personally, I like what we have at corner. I wouldn't use one of our top picks to bring in another cornerback because we have enough cornerbacks. Now, I would love to bring in a cornerback in the later rounds of the draft, maybe after the 3rd or 4th round. With the first in the first 2 rounds, I would not take a cornerback. And the reason I say that, is if you go and look at any of the teams that were in the Super Bowl or the elite teams in the league last year, you don't need excellent corners to make it to a Super Bowl. You don't need lockdown corners. I would rather have elite front 7 than have an elite secondary. The front seven is where it's at. And the reason I say that, if you look at the San Francisco 49ers last year, they didn't have any lockdown corners on the team. Even Richard Sherman at this point in his career is not a lockdown corner. Majority of the times, their defense is playing cover 3 and playing zone coverages. You've seen last year in the Super Bowl when Richard Sherman was matched up one-on-one, he was burnt toast. When he matched up one-on-one with Sammy Watkins or Tyreek Hill in the Super Bowl, he got burned. You see the play late in the Super Bowl in the fourth quarter when they tried to match him up one-on-one with Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins beat him off the line easily because Richard Sherman is not a lockdown man-to-man corner. And mainly in the league nowadays, it's not many lockdown corners anymore because all of the rules of the game in the NFL now are slighted towards the offense. So it's very tough to find a cornerback that's going to travel and going to lock players down. The only player that I seen last year really that was locking people up in man-to-man coverage was the Defensive Player of the Year, Stephon Gilmore for the New England Patriots. He was traveling and he was locking guys up. But if you have an elite front seven, that will help improve your secondary. I really believe last year our secondary looked as bad as they looked because our front seven was literally getting no pressure. So I don't care who you have on that back end. If you're not getting any pressure on a quarterback and a quarterback has all day to throw with the rules and the way that the game is set up nowadays for the offense in the NFL, it's impossible to stop wide receivers, any type of wide receivers, if you're not getting any pressure up front. And like I told you guys, we went 4 to 5 games where we had 0 sacks early in the season. And I really believe that's why Isaiah Oliver looked as bad as he looked. That's why Kendall Sheffield, Desmond Trufant and those guys, early in the season, they looked really bad. But I really put a lot of the blame on the front seven because they were not applying any pressure towards quarterbacks. And quarterbacks had all day to throw. And they gave the wide receivers 6 and 7 seconds to get open, and that's way too much time to ask any cornerback. I don't care who it is, Patrick Peterson, whoever you want to name, Stephon Gilmore. If you leave a cornerback on an island for 6 and 7 seconds and expect them to cover a wide receiver in today's NFL, it's basically impossible because once a receiver gets past 5 yards, you cannot contact them whatsoever, or it's illegal contact. So personally, I really believe if we look into our pass rush and if we continue to upgrade this pass rush, I really feel like that will help the back end. I don't think that our cornerbacks are as bad as they looked. Like I said, last year, if you notice down the stretch, the secondary looked a lot better. But I really believe our secondary looked a lot better down the stretch because our pass rush was better down the stretch. Vic Beasley over the last 6 games where we went 6-2, or last 8 games where we went 6-2, Vic Beasley had like 6 sacks, and the defense really, the front seven really ramped it up. Adrian Claiborne ramped it up. Grady Jarrett ramped it up. All of those guys were even Pat McKinley. All of those guys got out the quarterbacks. In that Saints game that we won, that 49ers game, the front seven was really getting after those quarterbacks, and that's what allowed the secondary to play better, because they were not having to cover for 6 and 7 seconds while our quarterback is in the backfield, scrambling around and able to throw the ball downfield, and guys are able to break their routes off and stuff like that. So personally, like I said, if you look at any of those teams that were in the Super Bowl or the elite teams in the league, the Kansas City Chiefs last year, Brashard Breeland, Kendall Fuller, they don't have any excellent shutdown, lockdown corners, and they won the Super Bowl. The only player that they have I really, really respect is the Honey Badger, and he plays safety for their team. So they didn't have any lockdown corners, but they had an excellent front seven. They had Terrell Suggs. They had Frank Clark. They had Chris Jones. So they were getting pressure on the quarterback, so their corners were not having to cover for lengthy periods of time. So if you look at even the 49ers, Bosa on the front end, DeForest Buckner on the front end, Eric Armstead, all of those guys that they have that they were getting pressure, D Ford, all of those guys they have on the front seven. Their back end were guys I never heard of: Emmanuel Mosley, Jimmy Ward, and at their safety, Richard Sherman, like I said, at this point, Richard Sherman is at an advanced age, and he's on the back end of his career, so he's not a lockdown corner. That kid Weatherspoon that they had, the rookie guy that they had, number 23 for the 49ers. They didn't have any guys that are well-known names. They didn't have a Patrick Peterson, or they didn't have Chris Harris Jr. They didn't have a bunch of elite cornerbacks. They have an elite front seven. So I really think that the Falcons should really look at building an elite front seven, continuously adding pass rushers, continually adding more linebackers that can cover, because I do like Devondre Campbell, and I think that he's solid, and I wouldn't mind us bringing him back. But if we can add another linebacker in the draft that's better in coverage, I really think that would go a long way, and also helping the Atlanta Falcons, because last year tight ends and running backs really killed us, especially tight ends, because Devondre Campbell really struggled in coverage. So personally, I feel like the Atlanta Falcons really need to bank on bringing in guys that help the front seven. And if you notice in my videos, it's a reoccurring theme that I'm not doing breakdowns on cornerbacks. I'm not really doing breakdowns on anything other than the pass rush, because I feel like our pass rush is very critical, and that's what we really need to focus on. So I really think that bringing in Robert Quinn, Yannick Ngakoue, Dante Fowler Jr., and then also bringing in at least two edge rushers in the draft, Kayvon Chaisson, AJ Espinoza, or Bradley Anae. Those are the guys that I've watched a lot of tape on, and those are the three edge rushers that I really want the Falcons to look into. If you wanted me to rate the top three, I would say Kayvon Chaisson number 1, Bradley Anae number 2, and AJ Espinoza number 3. I wouldn't care what order we draft them in if they're still available on the board, but I really think if we go with Kayvon Chaisson in the second round, AJ Espinoza is not going to be available. So at that point, I would go with Bradley Anae in the second round if he's still there. But we definitely need to bolster this pass rush, bolster this defensive line. That should be our number one priority this offseason. If we do that, I'm telling you guys, we have a chance to be contenders for the Super Bowl. If we don't continue to improve our pass rush, we're not going to be in the running even to make the playoffs, because last year, our biggest Achilles heel was we didn't get after quarterbacks early on. A lot of people think that our Achilles heel last year was the offense and Dirk Cutter and his play calling, but really what was our Achilles heel early on in the season when we started 1-7 was our defense was not getting off the field on third downs. We were not applying any pressure on anybody's quarterback. If you remember, we made Marcus Mariota look like he was a Hall of Famer. We made Brissett for the Colts look like he was a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. It was a lot of quarterbacks earlier in the season that in a lot of games we should have won, where we made guys look better than they really were. But you guys place your comments below. Tell me what you think about signing Robert Quinn. I really suggest you go watch his highlight tape. I would love the Falcons to target Robert Quinn in free agency, because I think he is an elite pass rusher, and I really think that he could be that number one guy that we can rely on to get those double-digit sacks for us, and then everything else would be cake. If Tat McKinley, any sacks he brings to the table would be just icing on the cake. If we bring back Adrian Claiborne and these young guys that we're bringing in, Kayvon Chaisson, and the guys that I mentioned, everything else will be icing if we can bring in Robert Quinn and, bring in somebody that can be that number one pass rush guy, because we've really been struggling since John Abraham to find that guy, that elite pass rusher, that X factor pass rusher that can get you, double-digit sacks. But like I said, let me know what you think in the comments. Put down some players that you may have watched, some edge rushers in the draft that you may have watched that you would like me to check out. Also, place any free agent pass rushers down in the comment section that you think are excellent pass rushers that you would like me to go and do a video on, or you might want me to go and watch their highlight tapes. But this has been your boy Jew. I'll holler at y'all in the next video. I have some more content for y'all later on this week. But as always, hit that subscribe button. And as always, rise up. I'll holler at you guys in the next video. Peace.